Hey, it's Cavallo from datingfire.com and datingadviceguru.com. If there's one thing for sure, it's that you're gonna have problems in your relationships, right? You need to know how to fix a broken relationship no matter how bad it can be. The good news is, if you can detect it early enough, a broken relationship can not only be fixed, but not unlike a piece of pottery, your relationship will actually be stronger after the break. That's right, and that's what we're talking about today. We're talking about how to fix a broken relationship. I'm going to give you 10 steps that you need to know. And yes, before we do anything, do the big three. Number one, make sure you like and subscribe. This is good stuff. Why wouldn't you want to? Number two, why don't you turn on the notifications so you know when the next video comes out, that little bell indicator. And number three, make sure you leave a comment, or if you have any questions, or if you want to suggest a video, do that in the comment section below. And also be sure to stick around to the very end, because I always give a little bit of something after the credits roll. So you might have a broken relationship right now, but that's no reason to despair. The skills that you learn to fix it will last you for the rest of your life, and you'll know more about your partner in the process. You may want to hit the reset button in your relationship. That can be difficult to repair, that's for sure, but if you have faith and the right knowledge, you can definitely overcome these challenges. So why do relationships break or fail in the first place? Well, the simple truth is that we're humans. We're complicated, and relationships between complicated humans are even more complicated. So let's go through some of the reasons real quickly so we can understand this a litlittle better. Reason number one that we have these problems is that trust has left the building. The cement of your relationship is trust. Without it, your relationship will fail. Trust issues are very common. Trust issues usually start in our childhood, and we learn them in our families, and then we bring them into our relationships. Some of the bad things that happen when you lose trust are infidelity, jealousy, anxious behavior, smothering, insecurities, and a whole lot more. The first thing you need to do is to figure out whether your trust issues are because your partner is not trustable, or these are just anxiety and insecurity issues that might be inside you. Then you have to get to work on getting reconnected to your partner. And I'll tell you a little bit more about how to do that in a bit. Reason number two is that, well, you have a clash of expectations. That's another reason we have these problems in our relationships. Expectations are the rules we set up in our brain for how we expect this thing to turn out. It doesn't matter if it's a movie or a new album or a relationship, whatever it is, we all have expectations for what we want from it, right? The problem is when those expectations are also the thing that breaks the easiest in a relationship. One of the rules that I like to live by is that we are almost never disappointed by something that we don't have any expectations for. Relationships, however, are something that we have very distinct expectations for, and we have to relax those. When things don't turn out the way we expect them to, we get disappointed, and then our expectations are broken. The most common reason that a relationship will start to break down is your expectations or his expectations, and they're not being met. Reason number three we have these problems in our relationships is that your communication sucks. This is another reason relationships break. It's another one of those very common reasons that relationships start to erode and break down, and that's because if you're not communicating well, then you're not going to be able to meet each other's needs. You're always going to have misunderstandings. You're going to have this deep breakdown of connection and communication. Communication is one of the most important factors in your life, not just in your relationship, but it's especially important in your relationship because it's how you navigate the whole relationship with your partner. If you have problems, you have to communicate them. If you have needs, you have to communicate them. If something isn't working, like you have a problem, a bigger problem, then you have to communicate it. If your communication isn't in sync and compatible, you'll definitely have some problems, and eventually you will turn to a therapist or a counselor to help you with them. But chances are, by that point, it's too late. Reason number four that relationships break down is that you're on different maps and timetables. Sometimes it just happens that we're on different time schedules or we're in different places in our life. Then the timing is just plain wrong. It can be hard to see this when you want a relationship to work, but sometimes the situation is way out of control and you just need to walk away. Sometimes you meet in the same place, but you're also going at different speeds, right? You ever had that where he's ready and you're not, or you're ready and he's not? so you fall out of step with each other. And I'm going to tell you reason number 5 at the end of the video. This one's really big and you've got to know it if you're going to really be able to fix any relationship. So should you fix this broken relationship? Now, this is a really hard question to answer, and I absolutely can't answer that for you without knowing more about your relationship situation. This is why I do coaching. So you have to do it for yourself. In most cases, if you suspect your relationship is broken or badly damaged, it's usually best for you to walk away from it. However, I can't tell you for sure. The amount of effort you try to put into a really bad relationship, well, you know what? It could be 10 times the amount it would actually take to find a new person that you could actually create a real relationship with that doesn't have these problems. So it's one of those things you have to figure out. So how do you fix a broken relationship? That's why you came here, right? You want Carlos to give you the goods? Well, let's say you've decided you are going to fix this relationship and you feel your partner might be the one for you. What do you do next? Well, here's some of the steps. Step number 1, bury the past. If you're going to move forward with your relationship, you have to be able to let go of the stuff from the past, because if you can't, you're just going to keep repeating it over and over and you're never going to get anywhere. Holding on to the past has only gotten you to where you are right now, and I doubt it's a good place if you're sitting here watching Carlos's video on how to fix a broken relationship, right? The past is the past, and you have to be willing to let it go if you want to move forward with him. Step number 2, accept it all. You also have to bury the past by coming to terms with the things that you don't like about him. You have to be willing to accept all of the traits about him that he has right now, even if you don't like them. This isn't to say that he won't change or work on improvement in the future. That's something you both can work on together. But for now, you have to realize that he is who he is right at this moment. He's not your personal self-improvement project. So if he's not acceptable now, well, let me just give you my rule of acceptance. The less a man feels accepted by the woman in his life, the less he wants to be in that relationship. He needs your acceptance more than anything else. If you withhold it, he's going to look for it somewhere else. Step number 3 is to get flexible. When we're rigid in our relationships, we become impossible to deal with. When we first get together with somebody, we accept them as they are, right? And we have no problems being flexible with them. This is what they call the honeymoon phase of a relationship. But eventually, this phase always ends. We have to be flexible, and we have to be able to accept when our partner doesn't see things the way we do. Step number 4, enhance your goodwill. One of the symptoms of a relationship that's broken is that there's very little goodwill between them, meaning that they no longer have the resting sense of love and joy between them. One of the ways you can ramp up that goodwill is to start showing interest in your partner again. Remember when you didn't know enough about them, that you were curious about them, and you're always asking them questions, you wanted all the details. Where did they grow up? What were their families like? What were they interested in doing? What were their dreams of the future? And then, unfortunately, we give up on exploring them and being curious about them. What does that lead to? Boredom, and eventually it can lead to breaking up the relationship. Step number 5 is to identify your dissatisfaction. In order to move forward, you got to identify what is it exactly that you're not happy about with him. Somewhere in the relationship you feel disconnected. Something feels off, and you might not know exactly what that is. But in order to get moving forward again, you got to be able to identify what it is that isn't quite right. Once you figure that out, you can focus on it, target it, and fix it. Step number 6, make sure he's on board. Probably the most important part of this process is to really just make sure he's going to work with you on all of this. You have to figure out whether or not he's going to put in the effort to make the relationship work, or is he just ready to walk. You have to know whether or not he's patient enough to work through the possible commitment issues, intimacy issues, communication issues, all of it. The same thing could be asked about you. Make sure you are really on board with fixing the relationship and going through the work, the hard work of fixing it. Step number 7, start dating again. Most relationships fall into a very similar pattern. They start out hot and heavy, and then things rapidly turn routine. You've got to fight the routine of a relationship, the boredom part. Now, of course, a relationship can't always be thrilling love roller coaster that it was at the start, and most people don't want it to be that. It's kind of tiring, but it shouldn't become boring and mundane very quickly either. Now, one of the best ways you can do this and keep your relationship as your primary focus is, again, start dating again. At least one night per week, get out there and have a date night. And I can't cover all the detail of this on this video, but if you want to get every little nitty-gritty detail, go to the article. You can go over to datingfire.com. It'll bring you straight to my blog, and you'll be able to check out this article and get all the details. Step number 8, keep the feedback flowing. In order to keep the process of healing and making the relationship work again, you have to make sure that you have an open communication channel with him. Another good habit to have in your relationship is to have a once in a week check-in with him. This is where you give each other feedback about what's going on with you and the relationship. It's not a criticism period, okay? This is a time you check in. You can discuss your communication, the unhealthy patterns that you want to break, places in the week where you guys might have fallen out of step or gotten into a little bit of a disagreement, how you're going to keep the physical intimacy alive, among many other things. Constructive feedback is like the circulatory system of your relationship. Being able to pass the feedback back and forth is critical if you want to avoid the same communication breakdowns that threatened the relationship before. You should also make note of where your sensitive areas are and keep some healthy boundaries around how you communicate them so that you don't get into arguments or disagreements over it. Step 9, look at your patterns. Every relationship gets into cycles of pushing away and pulling back. We push the person away when we feel threatened, and we pull them back because we feel insecure or alone. By identifying those cycles, you can start to avoid this push-pull pattern that relationships get into, because very often it becomes a spiral that we can't break out of, and we end up pushing away once and for all. And step 10, don't forget about the bedroom. One area that we often overlook or neglect is the physical intimacy. It's rare that people in a relationship are always satisfied with the sex. You can't assume that he's satisfied just because he isn't saying anything or complaining. The one thing you have to learn about guys, if you haven't learned it by now, is that guys will rarely tell you what's going on in their minds. I know, newsflash, Carlos. Sometimes it takes a little bit of investigation. It can be awkward and a little uncomfortable, but you gotta do it. You gotta work past that barrier. And there's 2 more steps that I've thrown in, little bonus steps that you can get at the site. Go on over to datingfire.com and check out the article. But how do you fix a broken relationship before it breaks? Well, the key to any relationship lasting and making it through is always to avoid the problems before they become a problem. Now, you might not see the problems in your relationship before it's too late. So how do you avoid it? Easy. You have to know up front how to make him want to make that commitment to you. You have to know how to get him to see you as the woman that you are for him, what you can do for him, and make him give up all this resistance and blocking and stonewalling to your love once and for all, and to really open his heart to you. When you know how to trigger this effect in him, you'll be able to see his face change as he realizes how much he loves you and how much he wants to be a part of your life. Now, there's a path to doing this, and it's very simple. It's learning how men work. I'm willing to bet that you don't know nearly as much as you think you do about how guys work. You may even be thinking right now, no duh, Carlos, I would love to learn how guys work and how they think. Well, lucky for you, I'm a guy that can explain it to you. This is what I do. This is what I've been doing for over 18 years now, and I can do it for you. You may not need a coach. You may not need a guy to work with you directly. Maybe you just want some tips in making your existing relationship better. Maybe you need a new relationship that's going to work now. Maybe you just can't make it past that 4 to 6 week period with guys where your relationships are always breaking up right at that point where it starts to get a little difficult. Maybe you're constantly having him pull away from you and you're wondering, how the hell can I stop this cycle from happening? Well, I've got some great free tips you can go and get right now. Get in the process of learning more. Education is the only way to really make yourself a success at your relationships. Magazines and all the other guys out there are not showing you the real stuff. I give you the real details, the real information about how men think, how relationships really work, not the politically correct version, the real version. And I want to show that to you. Just go over to the link you see below me here. That's right, datingfire.com/free book. That's datingfire.com/free book. I got a ton of stuff to give you, and it all starts with my free ebook on the 7 mistakes that make men pull away from you. I'll show you the real reasons that men run from relationships. I'll show you how to know if a guy is still interested in you, and is he just a commitment phobe? I'll show you how to know for sure. This is all easy to learn, but you gotta go to the right source. Unfortunately, women don't know how men think. I'm a guy, I can tell you, I've been there. I've been in the worst places, and I'm in the best place right now in a relationship, and I want to share how that happens for you. Go on over to datingfire.com/free book. That's datingfire.com/free free book. And hey, before you run away, don't forget at the very end of the video, I've got one more extra bonus tip I'm going to give you. And of course, before you leave, make sure you do the big 3. Number 1, like and subscribe. You stuck around with me this long, you must like this stuff. Come on, hit that button. And of course, there's a little reminder, a little bell indicator button next to it. Click that so you get reminders and notifications when the next video comes out. And leave me any questions or comments or suggestions down in the comments below. Hey, this is Cavallo from datingfire.com and datingadviceguru.com. As always, live and love with passion. Hey, the last reason I want to give you that your relationships break down is that you're just not a match. Very frequently, I do see couples that get together and start a relationship, but they didn't ever stop to really make sure the other person was the right one for them. One or both of them was just desperate to get into a relationship as fast as they could. Now, they threw out their needs out the window and they ignored how wrong this person was for them. They might have even been seeking relief from their anxiety or their loneliness, but for whatever reason, they just didn't choose well. If each person in a relationship is completely healthy, then they could probably start a relationship with almost anybody. But compatibility is a huge issue if you're not in a whole and healthy place with your own self-esteem and self-worth. Now, if you want to learn if you are compatible with them, I've got a bunch of really good quizzes at the site that you can go check out. So go on over to datingfire.com. You'll be sent right over to my blog at datingadviceguru.com. You can just check out and take any of my quizzes or just look at the great free information there for you.